Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Soulfax. Today we'll be taking a look at this thing right here, the Pzkpfw 6 Tiger Aus H1. I'm going to be reviewing it, and this review is going to be for all game modes, I would say, both realistic, arcade, and simulator battles. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the history of this machine, about his historical significance and how that translates into game, into this thing right here. So if you're not in for a history lesson, feel free to click the annotation at the screen and you'll go straight to the gameplay, where I will also talk about this tank as we play it in some live replay. So let's get down to it. Now, before I start talking about the Tiger, I want to kind of set the stage for it, why it was required for it to be produced and why it was so effective and so ineffective later in the war, by telling you about what the design philosophy of German tanks was during and before World War II. So, there are kind of, in my opinion, three different stages of German tank building philosophy. So the first stage would be in World War I, when the first tanks, the first Pzkpfw K and the A7A vehicle, A7V tank, were deemed to be largely ineffective and failures, mainly because they were so expensive to produce and they required such a big crew to maintain and actually operate efficiently. So before World War II started, some changes had to be made, and there was a few attempts to actually make some lighter vehicles like Sturmpanzerwagen Oberschleichen, but that was a failed project. What actually was the first example of German engineering and the second wave of the German tank building philosophy was the first tank that was produced to fight in World War II, the Panzer I. Now, the Panzer I was never actually intended to be the main fighting vehicle of World War II. That was for the Panzer III and the Panzer IV. But the Panzer I was kind of a trial period for the Germans. They were testing how efficiently they could produce tanks with what level of quality. But despite that, there was a lot of Panzer Is in service as World War II started with the invasion of Poland. But let's just skip to the Panzer II. The Panzer II was kind of a stopgap design. It was made to actually fill in the gap between the time that the Panzer IV and the Panzer III were designed and produced in heavy numbers, so that the Germans still had something to actually fight with in World War II. And we do have a few Panzer IIs in games. Let me just open the text tree here. So we have the Panzer II C and the Fs. As you can see, they were good tanks. They were very low in armor, but you can see the team that were coming in here. We're talking about were decently mobile tanks with decent armor for them time and decent armament. So basically, the second wave of German tank building philosophy is we want to build a tank that is like, let's say, actually the Panther. We want to build a tank that is decently mobile, that has decent armor, that has a decent gun. So they were trying to build an all-around tank that is good in all conditions and that is not better in any way, but just good enough, and that they can produce them in mass numbers, so they can use their blitzkrieg techniques and superior tanker training to overwhelm the enemy. But what the German army never expected is for them to counter tanks that are so superior to their own that they can virtually do no harm to them. And that is exactly what happened in 1941 when Operation Barbarossa started. So the German tanks, when they encountered the Russian T-34s and KV-1 family tanks, they were just completely baffled by the awesome armor and anti-tank guns that they have. I mean, the roles that were intended for the Panzer II and Panzer IIIs were, the Panzer III is supposed to be the anti-tank one, but that was the problem with the Panzer III, was that initially it had a 37mm gun instead of a 50mm gun, and you couldn't mount a larger gun on it. The last version of the Panzer III, the Panzer IIIN, had the 75mm gun, but it was only a short barrel, so it could be compared to a early Panzer IV. But the second thing was the Panzer IV was supposed to be the infantry assault gun. It was supposed to take care of infantry, lightly armored target. It was supposed to be the one that comes into town, takes a lot of hits and destroys a lot of buildings and kills a lot of infantry. But the problem with that is there was nothing in the German army at that time that could penetrate a KV-1 and a T-34 frontally, besides the 88mm flag gun, the flag gun that was basis for the design of this gun that we see on the Tiger 1 and the Tiger 2. So, like I said, the Germans were very surprised by this. They definitely weren't expecting it. I mean, they thought, Germans alongside with Hitler and his high command, that the Panzer III and the Panzer IV were going to definitely be just enough. They didn't think that the Panzer IIIs and IVs were amazing vehicles. They thought that with the advanced crew training and the coordination that the German Panzer crews had, they could just pull it off with the less, I wouldn't call it a inferior tank, I would call it just good enough tank. And that is basically the shock and awe that the German army experienced during the early days of Operation Barbarossa, and the first encounters that they had with the T-34 and KV-1s were basically what prompted this design to be built. In 1937, the German army commissioned from the Henschel company to build a little bit of a heavier tank, more heavily armored than the T-30. Oh my god, here I go again. The Panzer IIIs and the Panzer IVs. It was called the Drugbruchwagen. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not. But it's supposed to be a little bit of a heavier armored tank, and it resembled a Panzer III with a Panzer IV turret. Now, this basically marks the end of the second era of German tank engineering, where it was all about combining mobility, firepower, and armor. And now in the third era, they were shifting more to having a heavily armored tank with much better guns, a little bit less emphasis on speed than in previous designs. Now, from the combat experience that the German army gained fighting against French Somoa S-34 cavalry tanks and the Char B-1 heavy tank, the German army knew that sooner or later it's going to have to build a more heavily armored and more powerful tanks with bigger guns that could penetrate more armor. So on May 26 of 1941, Henschel and Ferdinand Porsche were asked to submit a design for a 45-ton heavy tank to be ready by June 1942. Both Henschel and Porsche decided to use previous designs for this competition. So the Porsche company decided to use their Leopard prototype, an improved version of it, and the Henschel company decided to use the VK3601 prototype. A little bit time after that, the Operation Barbarossa started on June 22nd of 1941, and the things that I just previously mentioned, the encounter of German tanks with the KV and T-34 tanks happened. Hitler himself ordered an immediate increase in weight to 45 tons and increase in gun caliber to 88 millimeters. The due date for these new prototypes was set for April 20, which was actually Adolf Hitler's birthday. Both Henschel and Porsche were ordered to use the Krupp design turret, and what we see from history and from this game is that the Henschel design actually won the competition. But that is not to say that the Porsche design was any bad of a tank. The thing is that the Porsche design used a very troublesome gasoline/electrical engine power, and it used a lot of copper in it. So and copper was a very strategic material for the German army, which was not in great supply during the war. And that is basically what tipped the scales in the Henschel design's favor. So if you kept watching through this short history lesson, that is basically how the Tiger 1H came to be. So let's focus on the in-game version of it finally. So I hope that you enjoyed this little history lesson. Now, so the Tiger that we have in-game stands at rank 3. The vehicle that you researched before it is the Panzer IIIM, which is kind of weird because the Panzer IIIM was, the Panzer IIIs in general were less heavily armored and less heavier than the Panzer IVs, so it's kind of weird that the Panzer IIIs come before the Tiger, but let's not talk about that right now. So the battle rating of 5.7 is what makes or break this tank, I believe. If you get 4.7 battle rating in a match in this tank, you are completely unstoppable because there is only a few tanks at that tier that can actually penetrate your frontal and even your side armor. So yeah, but talk about that a little bit later. At 57 tons, it's 23 tons, I believe, heavier than the heaviest version of the Panzer IV. So it is kind of a heavy tank. It definitely is not as mobile as Panzer IIIs, but it's not to say that it's not very mobile. It's got a 650 horsepower engine and a max speed on the stat card, which is kind of a general rule of thumb. Stat cards are not the most accurate things in the world when it comes to airplanes as well as tanks. So the stat card says that its max speed is 45 kilometers per hour in a straight line, which is kind of it is realistic, but the thing is you will frequently reach a 40 kilometers an hour speed in a straight line. So this tank is far from being unmobile tank. And so yeah, we're gonna skip this whole thing. The turret rotation speed has been buffed in recent patches, so it stands at 12 degrees per second, which is really nice. It keeps you from getting circle strafed to death by lighter tanks like the T-34 and the Sherman. Now, the vertical guidance on this tank is an unimpressive 16 degrees of gun elevation, but a decent 8 degrees of gun depression. My English is just, I'm stumbling on my words, but yeah, now we come to what really makes or breaks this, what did I say? No. Now we come to the two things that really make this tank what it is, both its armor and its gun. First, the armor, 102 millimeters, 102 millimeters, that is 22 millimeters more than on the most heavily armored part on a Panzer IV. So 102 millimeters of armor at the front, 82 at the sides, 82 at the back. The third armor is also very nice. It's got a 100 millimeters maximum zone, which is kind of a lie because there is a 200 millimeter stretch here, but we'll get to that a little bit later. 82 at the side, 30 at the back, and now the gun. This thing in real life, its historical brethren was a beast. It was really a beast. One of the experts, I hate to use this phrase, but experts claim that the two best guns in all World War II were on the Tiger I and the Tiger II. So this is the 88mm Kampfwagone Kanone 36 88mm gun. Now, this thing, the stat card says it has 162 millimeters of penetration at 100 meters, 151 penetration at 500 meters, and 138 millimeters of penetration at 1000 meters. Now, this is a little bit of weird if you ask me, because in real life the Tiger would regularly engage targets over 2 kilometers range, and there are some reports that a Tiger managed to kill a T-34 at 4 kilometers range, which is completely absurd, and that just tells you about how awesome this gun was in real life. Okay. The reload speed of this gun is a decent 9.5 seconds, but it is a little bit more than the tanks that you're going to be facing, like the T-34 and the Sherman Jumbo. But if with the armor of this tank, if you can survive the return shot, and the shot that you put into your enemy does not kill it, the second shot will most likely kill it. Now let's get to the individual things about this tank and discuss it a little bit in more detail. Every German tanker that has grinded its way up to the Tiger I knows that the Panzer IIIs and the Panzer IV are not what you would call heavily armored tanks, and you know that when something shoots at you, is it a T-34, a KV-1, or a Sherman, or a M10, or an M18 Hellcat, you know that in 90% of the cases it will penetrate you. Now, when you are a new player and when you're grinding through the German tree and you finally get to this tank and you see that the awesome armor that it has, 102 millimeters, and that it's so nicely made, it's a box tank, and that you can easily angle it, it makes you think that, oh my god, maybe I do stand a chance. Maybe this is the point in time where the Germans get a little bit more armor and they can take some hits. That is true, but it's also not true for the Tiger. Now, it stands at 5.7 battle rating, and at 5.7 battle rating, because this is a game and this game must be kind of balanced, it stands against machines that have cannons that will be able to penetrate its frontal armor when it's not angled, and in real life that was also the case, but that was a little bit later during the war in 1942, in 1942, early 1943, but when the Tiger was first introduced, there was not a single tank in the Soviet or the American army that could penetrate it frontally. Not a single tank, not a single cannon. Both of these armies developed new cannons to fight this tank specifically. The British developed the, I believe it's L8 or 12-pounder gun, or maybe even 5-pounder gun, I don't know what's really, but the gun on the Sherman Firefly and on the later Churchills. The Russians developed the 85mm D5 gun that the, the T-34-85 uses. Now, if you're thinking that this is one of those tanks that you can just roll up on town in Poland and tank all the hits that you want and just dish out all the damage with this very nice gun, you're gonna be a little bit disappointed, and that's why I think is why people are complaining about this tank. In real life, this tank was a beast. In game, it's a beast, but at its battle rating at 5.7 and against these opponents, it's a mediocre tank if you're not playing it to its strengths. Now, okay, let's get to the armor of this tank and analyze it a little bit more detail. Now, the 102mm of frontal armor at the hull and at the lower plate are very, very good, as well as the side armor, with the side armor being so thick in comparison to what the Panzer IVs and Panzer III had for side armor. You can very easily angle this tank, and because of its box shape, it's very easy to actually angle because there's not a lot of things that can mess up your angling. And if you angle it very efficiently, which is I believe like this, with your side almost pointed at the barrel of your enemy, not all the way because that's gonna mess up your side armor, you can get around 130 at the front plate and around 130 at the side plate, which makes it kind of an even shot for your opponent and gives them an even opportunity to actually kill this tank, to penetrate its frontal armor. Now, the T-34-85 has 130 millimeters of penetration at 100 meters, which means that you need to play this gun as a tank as a long-range sniper, as it was intended to be played and to be used in real life. Can it still brawl in town in Poland and in Eastern Europe? Of course it can, if you angle this front plate enough, and if you keep the rest of your tank hidden behind a building, it can still bounce a lot of shots from this front plate, especially the downward plate because of the sloping, the reverse sloping on it. Now, the turret of this tank is actually better than the front hull of this tank. It's because it's really layered. The gun mantlet is really awesome. There is this strip of 100mm of armor, which is the most rear part of the front of the plate, which extends all the way down to the underside of the turret, where the, how do you call it? Let me just check on the X-ray. The horizontal aiming drive is located. So that's very good for this tank, because above it comes a 90mm thick plate, which is really, really good, because if anything shoots you around the edges of your turret, there's absolutely no way they're going to be able to penetrate, because effectively that is 190mm of armor on it. Under that, there is a 200mm strip, above that there is a 200mm strip, which is, like I said earlier, this stat card is lying, because that's a 200mm strip here, that's a 120mm strip, and that's a 135mm strip. So this is kind of weird. I don't know why they put that here. Maybe that's the average armor on the turret, but it's still... yeah, okay, I'm getting sidetracked. So there's this 200mm of armor, which is really good. Nobody wants to shoot you here, because there's no way they're going to penetrate. Like I said, this is 90mm. There is a 120mm of armor, and this is the weakest point on your turret, actually, because T-34s, 85s, KV2s, IS-1s can and will actually be able to penetrate this in excess to 500 meters range. So, like I said, again, I'm pointing it out, this is a long-range sniper, you need to play it as such. There is another 135 strip here right around the gun, and there is a 100mm strip, which is very nicely angled, so it's very hard to actually get through. So all in all, the front of the Tiger is very, very, very well armored tank, but like I said, this is one of those tanks that kind of kind of disappointed me when I first unlocked it. I was one of those people who didn't know a lot about tanks in real life, and I was just expecting that with this huge piece of armor I can just roll in town and start shooting at everybody, and it's not so easy. There is another thing on this tank that is stupid, if you ask me. Now, this is not historically accurate, and Gaijin does prize itself with historical accuracy. Now, there is this 80mm of armor on the tank. This is not the part of the frontal plate, it is above the frontal plate, so if anybody shoots you here, they're gonna have a hard time penetrating. But do you see this? When we mouse over the frontal plate and this gun view, or the driver's viewport, there is a part of it which is not armored at all. Yes, there is this little slot in here, which is, there is absolutely no armor here, and if you shoot with anything here, and if the shell actually doesn't hit this part here, the gun view, whatever this is, and the frontal plate, is gonna penetrate 100% of the time. It's so stupid. In real life, the Tiger drivers had a huge piece of armor they would put on this during battles, just to prevent these things from happening. So why this tank has this is a mystery to me. Well, it's not a mystery to me because, like I said, this game needs to be balanced, and there are some tanks that this tank might find it's fighting against at 4.7 if it gets down to 1 tier that definitely cannot penetrate the frontal plate of a tiger, and they kind of need a place to shoot at, and this is the place to shoot at. But does that mean that they really need to put a place of armor where there is a 100% an auto penetration on this armor, which will, if you look at an X-ray, will most definitely kill the gunner. It will almost, excuse me, the driver. It will almost always either kill the machine gunner or knock out your gun and your horizontal aiming drive. And if you got a lot of ammo in the tank, which is not a thing that you want to do, it will sometimes even blow up your tanks outright. So, in my opinion, this is just it's a stupid thing to do, because you're diminishing the power of this tank just to give other people more chance to kill it. I don't understand why it is. Maybe because this is a German tank and the people who are designing this game, who are developing these games, are Russians. And like I said, I don't want to talk about Russian bias, but this is one of the things that really makes me think that there's something wrong with this game. Yeah, okay, so we're talking a little bit about the armor. So like I said, the most effective way to use this armor is to actually be at a distance from your opponent. It can be penetrated under 1 kilometer by almost anything you will face. Is it a T-34-85, a KV-85, a KV-2, an IS-2, or all the different Shermans that you might face? They will be able to penetrate you. If you angle your tank even slightly, and you are at a 1 kilometer range, you will be able to penetrate them, because your gun is so freaking awesome penetration wise, even at distance, that is not going to pose a problem to you. But they will not be able to penetrate you, and they will most certainly not be able to accurately hit this little gun driver's viewport. So all in all, you need to keep at range with this tank. The second big thing about this tank, what makes it so special, is its gun. This thing right here, the Pzkpfw Kanone 36, the 88mm gun that was designed. It's based on the 88mm flak gun that was designed earlier in the war. Actually, excuse me, pre-war. It's a very old. Oh my God, I'm stumbling on my words. Excuse me. Huh. Okay, so there is a consensus in the World War II historical society, if I might say. That's not a thing, but yeah, the two best cannons in the guns, the two best cannons in history of World War II were most definitely the Tiger 1 gun and the Tiger 2 gun. Both of these guns performed better in real life than they do in game, and slightly better penetration wise, and much better with the post-penetration damage wise. The thing about this gun, it's an 88mm gun. It's the pinnacle of German engineer when it comes to guns. And this gun was designed to one-shot targets. In game, however, you will find yourself shooting 2 or 3 times at the same target without killing it, if you don't know where you're shooting, or if you're just unlucky, like most people are when shooting at T-34s or IS-1s. And it's another thing that I don't like about this gun. I mean, it's a great gun, it's got awesome penetration values, and if you hit an ammo rack, or if you hit somebody flush on the front plate, you will most likely kill them. But there are some times when even if you shoot the side of a tank, side of a T-34 or a KV, you will not outright kill them. And I've found this problem again with just the Russian tanks. T-34 is the biggest offender when it comes to this. I've managed to put 5 shots in a single T-34 on Kursk a few days ago with this 88mm gun, and he managed to shoot me twice in that time. Luckily, I was at over 1 kilometer range, and I was nicely angled and showing only my turret, so he couldn't penetrate me. But still, that's too many shots for one single bloody T-34. Now, that's not saying that this gun is not great. This gun is really awesome with the nice turret rotation speed of this tank. It's a very capable gun, but again, like I said, it should be used as a long-range sniper, where you can shoot your target multiple times without getting penetrated in return. So that is basically what I can say about this tank without showing you replays. Let's just take a look at an X-ray very quickly. So the whole gunner, driver, loader, and commander placements are very standard for German tanks. One of the biggest weak points of this tank is the horizontal aiming drive, because it's, like I said, it's only 110 millimeters armor thick, 100 millimeters armor thick, and if you're able to shoot it down here, you're most likely going to be penetrating the Tiger and knocking out both of its gunners and a gunner and a loader, or maybe even a commander, and disabling the horizontal aiming drive. The way to eliminate a lot of this ammo that you see here, because if you get shot from here right on, you're going to be penetrated and you're going to be blown up by anything other than an old T-34 or maybe a 75mm armed Sherman. The way you eliminate a lot of these ammo racks here is you carry under 25 rounds in the gun. That will limit the tank to having only one side ammo rack and one ammo rack beneath the tank. So if you can angle your tank to show the other part of the tank, so let's say this is the only ammo rack here. If you can angle your tank like here, you will effectively shield yourself from getting ammo racked too often. So let's get into game. I've theory crafted long enough. Let's get into game and let me show you what this tank can do in an actual match. Okay, the first replay I'm going to be showing you is of how actually not to play the Tiger. This is a realistic match on Poland and a standard match, so we only got 2 cap points, our B cap point here and the A point. Now, the thing that Russian tankers like to do on Poland is just rush the city, and I'm going to do the same in my Tiger, which is exactly the thing that I told you not to do. Also going to switch to my player view and close these things because we practically don't need them. Pardon me for the frame rate, but yeah. Now, so my thoughts were, I want to go one of these 2 big streets here. There are 2 big streets in Poland that look from one side of the city to the other, and if you're in a Tiger, you can still use them because you get nice frontal armor if you angle them correctly. But what actually happens here is, I'm going down this street here, and I see 2 Panther and a Tiger, and that's like, there's nothing for me to do here, because there's 2 of them already over here. Practically nothing to do for me. But I still decide to take cover behind the Panther and try and get a few shots in here. As you can see, I'm already pre-angling my tank in case something actually goes through that one Tiger and that one Panther here. But I'm also going to eliminate the markers, because that will show you how you're supposed to actually play this. Now, another thing that I like to do when playing my Tiger and while actually playing all my tanks is, instead of just using the scope to scope around, to look around and see what I'm shooting at, is I actually use the commander's view, which you can activate by, I don't know what's the default button for it, but I changed it to my mouse button number 4. Now this is the second street that looks down the whole edge of the map, and this is a good place for the Tiger because you can shield most of your frontal plate behind this rock and you can still keep him quite angled. So the thing that I want to express here, let me just pause the video and change the scene here. Now, I'm angling my tank here. This is what you need to do in a Tiger. I'm angling my tank. This is almost the perfect angling of a Tiger. Also, I'm hidden behind this rock, so anything that shoots me from the other side of the map here, other side of the street, is going to be only able to shoot the right side of my plate here, the right side of my lower plate, and my turret, which is perfect for the Tiger because the turret is very well armored, except, like I said, these 2 little plates here, which are 125 millimeters, and this driver's hatch. But at this distance, it's hard for people to actually shoot it. Now, okay, let's change back to this perspective and resume the game. Now I'm looking down the street to see if there's anything to shoot at. Again, I say, this is not a good place for the Tiger because even though you got a good gun and nice amount of armor, you're still far better. Your gun is much more effective at distance, and your armor is much more effective at ranges up to 1 kilometer. But yeah, I think, if I remember correctly, there's going to be somebody at the end of this map right here. At the end of the street, excuse me. But I'm not quite sure. And this is also not a very good place for the Tiger. This is just me checking how I'm angled. Because, oh, there's a tank here. I think that's an SU-100Y. Or SU-Y-100. I put a shot into him. For some reason, I managed to not detonate his ammo, although that thing has a 130mm gun, and the ammo in that thing is huge, and I should have been able to detonate it, but unlucky shot here. So yeah, I'm going to actually fast forward a little bit because I know nothing happens here. Now I'm going to be thinking about backing off. I think this is the correct replay. I saw something also over there at the end of the map, but I'm starting to figure out that the left side of the map, as you can see, left's flank on the map has been completely wiped out. There's almost nobody here protecting our asses from the people coming from that side. And at this point, I'm kind of worried about what might come through here while I'm looking down the street, because tunnel visioning in the excuse me, tunnel visioning in the Tiger is a real thing. As you can see, I'm already checking and pre-aimed at that corner because I think there was somebody over there. Yeah, you can see flak, and there is a was that a duster? What's he doing in this match? I'm decided to go and make a break for this because like this side of the map has fallen completely. I need to try and do something about it. There's an T-34-85. He shoots at me, but again, let me just show you how angled I was. I was perfectly angled. He shoots at the front side of my plate, no penetration, and that's just basically how you should play the Tiger in these city maps. You need to pre-angle your tank before going into streets and just hope that your enemy is the right place where you want him to be. Okay, let's just continue with the map. Put one shot into him. I don't think he's dead just yet, but well, that's we're going to be changing that quite soon, because if I put one shot into a T-34-85, most likely he's gonna die just as well. Second shot in, I think that bounced off his front plate, or I might just killed him. The thing is, I can't see this kill scenario here, and there's an ISU. He shot me, but luckily I'm freaking alive. And at the same time, I was well angled against the T-34-85 over there, so I just push up. I don't think anything has been disabled. No, I lost the horizontal drive. The T-34-85 knocked it out. I lost the horizontal drive, and now I just go in here and try to hide against all these enemies here. So I already got one kill and already got really lucky against playing against that SU-122, because usually an SU-122 has got enough penetration to outright penetrate you and just completely obliterate any tank it shoots at, even a Tiger. So just again gonna speed it up just a little bit because it's taking a little bit too long here to repair. Okay, tank repaired. Let's get back to it. Now my thoughts here, I want to peek around the building here and see what I can find, because again the side flank has been completely wiped out and we were actually doing pretty well in this match. This is not one of those usual matches where the German team gets completely wiped out. Now let's see, I saw tracks of something there, and I want to keep this angle here and move forward to be pre-angled for anybody who's up over there and to try and take a shot at him. Again, I am conscious of my surroundings and trying constantly checking my behind to see if anybody's trying to sneak up on me. Now I do a little bit of mistake here. I decide not to angle and I flung the shot. And oh my god, a KV-2, that's a 152mm gun on that beast. He managed to doink a shot in, I believe, in my right tracks here. I think this is the shot from the KV-2, which blows out the first portion of my tracks, and somehow I'm still alive. This was a really lucky match for me, because I took two shots from really big caliber guns and managed to freaking survive. But yeah, let's get back to this game. This is completely hilarious. And now he's basically dead. I put one shot into him already. I think I knocked off his gun or something along those lines. So I just charge him. The T-34, not the T-34, the KV-2's got, I believe, almost a 1 minute reload. So I just go over him, put one into his gun, and I'm pretty sure I disabled it by this time. Now the best place to shoot if you can actually hit it, because it's a small target, to shoot a KV-2 is first in the gun, because you want to disable it. And the second place where you want to kill it, instead of actually going for the side armor, is to shoot at the turret, shoot right next to the gun at this nice little flat spot here, because there's loads of ammo behind that, and that's an easy kill for me. This was basically not a very bad result, but as you saw, I got very lucky in this match. I should have been dead by the time I faced that SU-122. And there's another tank right in front of me here, and that's a Jumbo. Now, I make a very big mistake here. I should not have chased after him, because he is in a good position. Now again, I try to angle my armor here, and he bounces off my frontal plate with his first shell, but I'm already down 2 crew members, so if he shoots me once more, I'm most likely dead here. Now, he's up on this rock here, and I get a little bit unlucky. Suddenly a T-34-85 shows up, and he somehow manages to penetrate me, because, as you see here, I was too much angled. I showed my plate too much, and he was able to penetrate me here. So that's basically how you're gonna die in city streets. You're gonna get against one tank in a Tiger, and you're able to angle in a city street and a 5.7 match is not very hard, but against more than one tank, like this situation here, you cannot angle against both of them. So yeah, let's go to the next replay. Okay, on to our next replay. Now, this is another city map here, although it's Eastern Europe, so it's not all that much city in comparison to Poland. Now, in this match, I decided to, since again it's a standard realistic match with only 2 cap points, I wanted to flank around the side here and get into a nice hull down position. That is basically, excuse me, not hull down, nice position where I got one of my flanks covered and where I can decide what part of my armor to show to my enemy, because that is basically how you survive in the Tiger. Now we're going to go back to my player's view here. The A is over here, and most of the fighting on this map is going to be concentrated around these little houses here, with the Russian team concentrating around the piles of woods, around that wooded little area here. So I decided this is a good place to actually camp out here, and I say camp out because that is basically what you need to do with the German tanks. This little ridge protects my side armor, and I can only choose to show my frontal armor here. So, and from this position I got a nice overview of the area. And now this is what I was talking about earlier about trollish Russian tank turrets. Now look at this. T-34-85 shot right into his turret here, bounced, no damage. And now that's really annoying when you find yourself fighting against T-34-85s. And now here I saw something around the side here and I didn't know what it was firstly, so I angled my armor, moved forward a little bit to protect my flank with this little hill, and this is one of those AAs from the Russians, this Zeus or something they're called. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, oh my, why are you firing full AP shells, why didn't you fire heat? Not heat, excuse me, HE shells. The problem is because they don't have a lot of penetration. I don't know the armor profile of this vehicle, so I was not confident in firing heat. And now, this is the second thing that I was talking about, the Tiger's gun here. That's already 3 shots in the thing and he's still not dead. That's not supposed to happen. That is an 88mm gun, and this is a self-propelled anti-aircraft gun. He's not supposed to survive that. And now, after 4 shots, I finally killed the dude and I can focus on this little street here. Because this is basically what I need to do. I need to protect, I need to support my team from the side here while they take the shots from me. And again, I saw some arty on the side there, and I decided to check another look. And is this the same guy? I don't know. Let's check it again. Well, this is not the same guy. So again, I angle my armor. Now this one is actually going to get a few shots into me because he noticed me there. And again, I'm angling my armor, and this is only a, what do you call it? An anti-aircraft gun. And I think you actually managed to saw, he didn't shoot me in the right position. He could have been able to penetrate me if he managed to shoot this little slot here, but he decided to shoot me in the frontal part of the armor, and he failed miserably. And again, I want to show you how much of a hard time I'm having to killing these things, because that's 2 shots in the thing, and I got some support from the Ostwind over there, so I just leave him to the Ostwind because, like, dude, kill him for me, I need to take care of this flank here. Now finally I can push forward, expose only the front part of my armor here, and see what I can see here. Now I see already 2 friendly tanks fighting down here, and that's an SU-100Y. 1 shot, side of the turret, boom, dead, because that's a lot of ammo behind in that very big turret there. And it's very easy to kill it from that side. Now, I'm very conscious, I saw something over there just for a fraction of a second, and I can see on the side over here, there's some AA fire coming from that side, and I'm in a good position. I'm in a good position because I can cover my flanks by this rock here, and I can retreat behind it after I take a shot, but I'm still not in a great position to actually defend from the left. And now there's a T-34-85 there, 1 shot into him, don't know if it hit, but most likely did. That's already 1 shot in the T-34-85 there. 2nd shot in the engine deck, and now he bounced off me because I'm very well angled. 2nd shot sets him on fire, and now the 3rd shot I'm aiming for his turret here because on the front it's only 90mm stick and I want to take out his crew. Goes a little bit low, but still manages to kill him by detonating his, I believe it was the ammo rack. And now I'm in a great position here because from the front nothing can penetrate me except maybe a lucky Su-22 or something like that. Another T-34-85, 1 shot in the turret, and this one, that was so weird. That's 95mm of armor into his frontal turret, and it actually managed to bounce? That's so strange to me. That's not supposed to be happening. Even though it was slightly angled, that's not supposed to be happening. Now, if you look at the map just for a second here, you see we're being capped here. And you see that I fired a lot of shots and I only had 15 rounds of AP ammo stored up. You might be thinking what I'm thinking here. I'm running low on ammo here. Now I see a lot of tanks to the side here. Also in a good position because like this hill is protecting my side. Pull back a little bit just not to be shot from the side here so I can take free shots at that. I believe it's an IS. I managed to one-shot him, and there's a AA here, an M16 of the American line, I think. Put one shot into his engine deck. Somehow the dude didn't die, which is really weird. Another one of those Zeus things. I think this is a one-shot kill for me. Yep, this is a one-shot kill. Detonated his ammo rack on the side. And now I look down here behind myself because there's a T-34-57, I think. And now he's able to penetrate me, but look at what happens here. First shots into him. Did you see the tracer? That is HE. I'm firing HE at him. At this point, I was so freaking pissed because like, what? That's 45mm armor. I should have been able to penetrate it. Another HE shell in him and he's still not dead. And I'm like, oh. Oh my god. I'm out of ammo. Third HE shell. Not gonna do anything at this range. Absolutely nothing. And now I am out of ammo. And this is what happens when you're playing, when you have a good game in the Tiger. You literally run out of ammo. At this point, I was able to, I think I got 5 kills at this point. This is a good result for the Tiger. I mean, this is a great result for the Tiger. I'm getting shot at all sides here, and I'm basically dead because I'm out of ammo. We're being capped B. There's tanks on all my sides here. Most of them in front of me, but still there is nothing I can do. At this point, I'm thinking, like, let's just rush in here. Let's just do something. I did a lot of good things in this match. I managed to hold one complete flank here with my gun and with my armor here, and it's enough. As you can see, there's an SU-122, one shot through my frontal armor, which I nicely unangled for him, because why not? And I'm dead. And this is basically the end of my match here. I got killed a few more times here, and now that's what I wanted to show you here. That's how you're supposed to play your Tiger. You're supposed to cover your front, cover your sides with some actual hard cover. You're supposed to... You're a very good tank. You're supposed to be able to hold one complete flanks with one or two of your tanks, and that's basically it for this video. I think I told you all you need to know about the Tiger, how to kill the Tiger, how to effectively play the Tiger, what maps it's good on, what maps it's not good on, and how you should play it at certain maps, especially at city maps, because playing it at wide open maps like Kursk and Mozdok is quite a lot more easier because you are at longer distances and your armor is more effective. So I hope you enjoyed this video. There's going to be a few more of them to come. I hope so. And yeah, thanks for watching. This has been Soulfax, and you have a great day now, guys.